I created an origami-inspired iPad setup using the MOFT Float Folio that was kindly delivered to me by MOFT. But to do the origami theme justice, I'm going to need a lot more than just a foldable stand. So I've enlisted some souvenirs from my trip to Japan, and I'm going to forego a keyboard entirely to see how far I can push the iPad using just a magic trackpad. I wanted to try the magic trackpad for this setup because it really does just look like a folded piece of paper. It's an incredibly elegant and minimalist design from Apple. Of course, the iPad is primarily designed for touch, and so you don't need a keyboard anyway. However, if you do want to raise your iPad up to eye level and have a little bit of distance between you and the display, a trackpad is a brilliant choice. I'm not a huge fan of using the mouse with the iPad because of the way the cursor snaps to touch targets. It makes it feel very imprecise. But using the trackpad, that kind of goes away and it becomes a very natural way to interact with the iPad. Given this is an origami theme, I thought it'd be a brilliant chance to go back and edit some of the photos I took when I was traveling in Japan. During this trip, I went to some of the most beautiful places I've ever been to, including Kamakochi up in the mountains, and being able to see them on this beautiful display really brought those memories back. When you do have your iPad elevated like this and you take a keyboard off the table, you see how much space is actually available on your desk. Actually inspired me to try a bit of real origami myself. So I got a tutorial up on my iPad and tried to follow along and make a paper crane. Stick around to the end of the video to see how I got on. One of my favorite iOS features is dictation, and that means that surfing the web or even taking notes is also not much of a problem if you're just using a trackpad. Of course, you can always put your hands up and use the onboard keyboard, but it's really just there for emergencies because you can basically say anything you need to say directly into your iPad and you will get some really accurate transcriptions. Now, if you do want to use a keyboard with your iPad, you'll be happy to know that the MOFT Float Folio is actually part of a wider family of Snap products by MOFT. And one of the really cool accessories they sell is this snap case, which is compatible with a whole range of different accessories, but it also works with Apple's own Magic Keyboard. In fact, it solves one of my main issues with the Magic Keyboard, which is that when you take it out of the case, your iPad is completely unprotected if you want to put it down and, draw on a table. It also has this nice little pencil holder that stops your pencil from falling off in a backpack, which often happens to me. And it also fits into all of MOFT's other accessories, like the Float Folio, to give you a bit of added protection. So yeah, that versatility of this case is something that I really value. And if you don't want to have it in that tower mode, you can always collapse it down to a much more familiar iPad Folio stand, or you can put it into the shallower setting and it becomes brilliant for doing things like drawing in Procreate. That versatility, however, does take a little bit of getting used to. The actual folding mechanism can be a little bit fiddly at times, but as you can see from my attempt at actual origami, if I can put this stand together and take it apart again, I'm pretty sure you can too. Luckily, my mum is a lot better at arts and crafts than I am, and she made this actual paper crane for our wedding day, which is, I think, a lot better than my attempt. But if I've learned anything from this setup, it's that taking the time to put a creative setup together that breaks your usual patterns can be really beneficial to sparking new ideas. You can save 10% on MOFT products by following the link in my description and using the discount code Chris10, or you can get some more iPad inspiration by watching this video next. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in a bit.